Hello and welcome to Pest in Class, Expert Voices in Pest Management. Today I speak with Markus Konietzka, Director of Integrations at AXN Growth Partners, a rising thought leader in the pest control industry. Our conversation was packed with actionable insights, drawing from his experience optimizing routes at ACTION Termite and Pest Control. Markus reveals his best practices for achieving route success, boosting your customer satisfaction, and fostering employee well-being. If you're a routing manager aiming for route optimization, this episode delivers the strategies you need. I'm your host, Amanda Salvatore. Let's get into it. Markus Konietzka, you are the Director of Integrations with AXN Growth Partners, and today we are going to be discussing optimizing your routes. Thank you so much for coming on to Pest in Class.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
When I talked to you previously, you have so much great advice when it comes to routing. It's so versatile and there are so many ways to do it. And you have some really great best practices. So I'm very excited to get into it. But first and foremost, I would love to ask you a little icebreaker, as we do here on Pest in Class. Could you describe your perfect day?
The best day, I would be going to a new partner's facility. That's always fun. I get to meet new people, get to connect, and get to solve, these different problems. As been working with more partners, you kind of see a little bit of a general theme with some of these issues. So it's good to be able to just go there and be able to give them solutions right away. Depending on the day, I would, on the way home, I'd maybe hit the gym, or when I get home, I'd go for a run. I live pretty near like a mountain range, so I'll take my dogs and we'll go running. Unfortunately, can't do that anymore because it's summer. Yesterday was 95 when I went for my run, so I can't take the dogs anymore. But then after that, go home for my second shift and eat some dinner and go to bed and do it all over again.
I love that helping people and solving problems is a part of your perfect day, and also no traffic. As somebody in LA, I can relate. So let's get into it. Let's get into the nitty gritty. How did you find yourself in this industry?
My original background is actually logistics. I went to school for supply chain management. After graduating, I went to work for Amazon's NOC, their National Operations Center. After that, I did some time over at UPS as a cross-dock supervisor, and I enjoyed it, but I honestly was kind of ready for a change of pace. And at that time, our current CEO over at AXN, he offered me a job. He said, "Hey, I got a tech apprentice job. If you want to go outside, work with your hands again, it's all for you." And I was like, that's what attracted me to it. So I said, you know what, let's do it. I haven't really turned back since, and I don't really plan on, leaving this industry anytime soon.
So tell our listeners about AXN Growth Partners. What is your mission and what are you doing?
AXN Growth Partners, it stems from ACTION Termite and Pest Control. Our leadership team at AXN was originally ACTION, and then we kind of separated because we're helping more than just ACTION. We're helping all of our partners now, right? And that leadership team is we're one of the reasons why I'm really excited to work for AXN is because our team consists of primarily technicians. So the leadership team, I like to say that we are a platform that's run by technicians for technicians, right? We really emphasize quality, team focus. We really care about everyone, from tech to manager, service man, pretty much everyone there. We focus on them and we really promote upward mobility. When I started at this job, I was on roofs, cleaning up bird poop, right? Fast forward, I'm now an active member in board meetings. So I don't know many organizations that you can do that at, so I'm extremely grateful for that. It's one of the reasons why I love being here.
I love that you have this upward mobility and this opportunity to grow. I want to pivot back to your time as a technician. Your experience as a technician really, I'm sure, has shaped your perspective and approach when you transitioned into the routing manager. How did that experience inform your time as the routing manager?
I mean, I was there. I was in the trenches, literally, for these routes. So I know what it means for another appointment. It's not just dots on a screen for me, right? It's not just let's get this appointment, let's do this. I know what that work looks like. I know the sweat and the pain of some of these jobs. So I have a really deep sense of empathy because of that, and I really do think that it's a great trait for a great routing manager, right? Is that to have that empathy, to know what the team's going through. It's hugely helpful. Not only that, but I also knew what a good route looked like, right? So, I mean, I was grateful when our team did give me a great route, while I was a technician. So I knew what I was aiming for already. Besides that, because I was a technician, because I was out there, sweating with the team, working, getting on the roofs, all that good stuff, I knew everyone. I knew my team very well. And because of that, I knew each person's strengths and weakness, what this person's capacity was, what this person's capacity was. So it's really helpful as a routing coordinator if you know, hey, I know Eddie doesn't mind doing a little extra work. He's really motivated. He's very ambitious, money hungry, right? Whereas this tech is amazing. They have such great relationships with their clients. They do the job perfectly every time. But you know what? They're done after 16 stops or, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
So I think really being with your team and understanding who they are is extremely helpful in getting the job done at an organizational level.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to ask you, what do you consider a great route? Like, what makes a route great?
So I think really it's relative to which department you're talking about, right? I mean, for me, if we're talking pest control, what's a great route is 18 to 20 stops. To have that within a 20-mile radius would be ideal. Less is more, really. And for termites, I want to see money. I want to see money on there, and I don't want to see windshield time. So, when I was a termite technician, if I had $4,000 on a day, that was awesome because my take home for that day was great. That was a paycheck essentially. Yeah. So, it's different for each one, and then for sales, I'd like to see, 6 estimates on there, 6, warm leads there. So yeah, it kind of ranges, but each person can handle different levels of that, but something kind of rhyming with that.
Let's talk about when you first started routing for Action. You implemented some significant improvements in the efficiency, and right off the bat, including a 20% reduction in gas consumption. What were some of the initial steps you took to achieve such impactful results?
In order to get there was a few changes that I made fairly quickly when I came into the seat and came into the position. First was creating kind of a rigid schedule for routing coordinators. Most important tasks, MITs. So your daily, your weekly, and your monthly tasks are broken down. So every day you're going in the office and hey, I got to focus on this. And if I keep doing this consistently, the routes will improve. And that's really what happened. Not only that, but I mean, from my past experience, I kind of took a Kaizen approach. So continuously improving. That's one thing we're big on here is just everything can be better. So let's make it better. So really also kind of just, I went into our system and try to start eliminating constraints on accounts and use the FieldRoutes model. So the optimization model within FieldRoutes started employing that a little bit more. And then adding layers of auditing along the process. That's key. So a combination of all those things, as well as really leading on the route report, that was a game changer. And it improved the routes. Not only did it improve the routes, but improved everyone's morale. The cohesiveness between the office and the team was never better because, you know what? 20% reduction in gas means that these people are spending 20% less time on the road, essentially. You can kind of equate it like that. So now they got 20% more time with their family and, their friends at home. That's a big win for us. And not only that, it makes the organization, we're spending less money. So we're good returns on that.
Yeah, that's always good. That's always good. We're always looking to do that as well as efficiency. But also, it sounds like through just these small adjustments that you were making, but consistent adjustments, right? You were able to learn, look at that routing report, get that data. I have to ask, it seems like throughout your experience, the people who are working for you, these technicians, it sounds like the return is so great for them as well. I know that when we previously spoke, we talked about shifting from static routes to a more flexible, optimized approach, which I'm sure you kind of built up and into that system. What does this flexible model look like, and how has it helped Action?
One of the things that we came into when I got into the position was there's appointments that were, they stayed here because of this, that, and the other thing, right? Too many constraints. That makes a static route, but also a lot of custom dates. So if you're using FieldRoutes, you know that custom dates will allow a customer to stay in the same position over and over again throughout, the year. So you can have them on the first Monday or every seventh, what have you, depending on the customer. Now, the more that you rely on that, your routes are just going to be inefficient, especially if you have a growth mindset. Like if you're trying to gain more customers, it really helps to go to an optimization model. Not only that, but if you have reschedules, that static routing is just inefficient and ineffective as well. So when I say flexible routing, there are customers that you do need those custom schedules for. So like commercial clients, you can't show up to a restaurant when everyone's eating there, right? So there are some limitations to just getting rid of all the constraints, but identifying those specific customers that do need those times, those texts, what have you, getting them into your routes as an anchor, and then employing the optimization model through the FieldRoutes method. Now, using that, you're going to get, you got your anchors, so it's going to build the best routes around those. So you're already taking that into account. But then the rest of it, it's just going to coordinate that best based on the optimization model and the objective function in FieldRoutes. So after you have that taken care of, the next step would be to audit. So that's actually part of that, that list of the dailies, weeklies, monthlies. You're going to want to go and do a visual audit when you're doing your FieldRoutes. And then after that, you're going to take that route report and you're going to do an audit with that. And I really do recommend leaning on that route report as much as you can. That's really only just the part of creating the schedules, right? Because now that's one part of a routing coordinator's job, but now also managing all of the reschedules and all of the rest of the team adding new customers in. So it really helps to have some foundation for how the whole team approaches routing, right? Like, hey guys, if it's a pest control, it's a new customer, let's try to get them within 5 miles of, another appointment, kind of working like that. And then really, you got to have great communication skills. You got to, talk with your team in that office because there's a lot of things going on. You're all going towards the same direction. You have the same goal in mind. So just trying to, take care of all of the different appointments that come up and prioritizing really what needs to get done to make sure you guys, cross the finish line.
Anyone who's listening, I hope you have a notepad. So you could jot this all down and you have it so you can study it and look back at it, because this is some really great advice. I want to talk a little bit about quarterly service and monthly billing. This is also another tidbit that we talked about previously that I would never have thought of. So why do you think this model works so well?
There's a few reasons why the quarterly cadence is ideal and why that model is really beneficial for the organization as a whole. First and foremost, you're looking at bottom line, right? If you can get 3 times as much services in the same time frame, so let's just take quarterly as an example, right? I can have 3 times as many quarterly customers being serviced in a 3-month period as compared to if I had monthly customers only, because I'd be servicing that same monthly customer every time. So when we're talking about overall revenue generated in that 3-month time, your quarterly services have a higher price tag to them. So you've just increased the revenue quite a bit, right? Because now instead of these monthly services for like $50 each, you've got one service for, I'm just throwing numbers out there, $150, right? So if you can do 3 of those, ultimately you're getting much more revenue that way. Now, the real reason why I like it is really because of our team. If you're out there working commission, we're big on commission. because it motivates you to work hard. We want to win, right? So if I'm giving you appointments that have more revenue tied to them, if we're making more profitable appointments, then we can afford to give you a much larger commission, right? So if you have all quarterly services, if that's what you're really taking care of, then you're going to have a better commission off that as compared to someone that was dealing with just monthly services. Just one last note too is as a routing coordinator, it's super helpful because when you have people on quarterly services, it's not as I need you on the third Wednesday of this date, right? It's more of like, okay, yeah, you were here 3 months ago, so I expect you here probably this month. They're not as specific on dates, so you kind of lend to more flexibility that way, which really helps with optimization.
How do you communicate that system to your customers, especially with these services where it may not be happening on the exact day every month? So how are you communicating and keeping your customers happy?
It's a big question, right? Because a lot of people, when they say, oh, quarterly, that's not going to work. People want monthly. I mean, some people really do want monthly, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do to, change their mind. And in Arizona with scorpions, you hear it more than in other states, right? But realistically, it's on the organization to educate that customer to understand why they really don't need that monthly service. You honestly don't. You honestly don't, unless you're, building a new property in the middle of the desert where scorpions are everywhere. Maybe you should get monthly service, right? But realistically, if you're in the city, you can quarterly is fine. And then if you're on quarterly, we're going to give you like a service to service guarantee. So realistically, if you have a problem, we'll be out there again. No worries. We'll take care of you. And I think it's really communicating that assurance and educating the customer that it's a much easier pill to swallow.
I'm sure having that guarantee is very helpful, and that they
Yes.
know that no matter what, they are taken care of.
Mhm. And for any of the PCOs out there, just looking, at the data, when you're increasing your cadence by a month, your reservices typically only jump up about 1%. So per month.
Great. Good to know. Good to know.
Good little tidbit there.
Yeah. I'd love to know, are there any other key best practices for routing that you'd want to share with our listeners?
I definitely recommend, getting that script going, that daily, weekly, monthly, getting rid of all your constraints. As much as you can, really just can't drive that far enough home. And then it's the auditing too. It's making sure realistically lean on that route report. I know we did a webinar earlier and it kind of broke down how I would use that route report, but you can really extrapolate on that. You can take it the next step further. And really, speaking of the next step further, we've done that by using the premium API connection actually in FieldRoutes, right? So if you're really looking to elevate to the next level, getting that route endpoint into your business intelligence environment, and then having live feedback to your routing coordinators, that's huge. So we have a kind of a system where it's focused on the worst first. It's going to send an alert to my routing coordinators. Hey, we've got a route that's a little bit too high on the mileage for this department. Let's take a look at it. Hey, for the next 30 days, I'm seeing these routes at, it's got too many miles on this one. Let's go focus on that. So it's really taking that data and being more effective with your auditing that I'd say is that next step.
Thank you so much for mentioning the webinar. We'll definitely put that in our show notes because it was a wonderful webinar and there's so much information there and you actually get to see how to do it. So I think it's really important for those who are interested in improving their routing to check that out. I do want to ask, I know we talked about a bit of how FieldRoutes is helping you manage your routes, but is there anything else that FieldRoutes is helping you in that regard?
FieldRoutes is awesome for routings. I mean, I'll say that again and again. It helps a lot because it has that optimization model built in. And anyone that's really familiar with that type of system knows that it's not simple. It's a pretty complex setup to be able to do that and do it effectively. And no optimization model is perfect in any means, but FieldRoutes gets you about 90% the way there, right? The next step is to really use that route reporting, which FieldRoutes provides. So do not be afraid to dig into that. And then also, I mean, just kind of reiterating the point, FieldRoutes has a premium API connection. So really routing to improve it at scale is really looking at the data closely and honing in on those internal processes that you have via the communication with the routing coordinators and your CSRs and all that. So
Markus, this is amazing. I'm having a blast. I have to ask before we go, is there anything that you wish we spoke about today?
not really anything that I think we missed. I just really want to reiterate the point of getting a process, using the auditing tools, and then just continually improving. It's essential theme. If you focus on those things, you're going to be in better shape than you were before.
Incredible. Markus, thank you so much for coming on to Pest in Class.
Thank you for having me. It's been awesome.
Thank you for tuning into this season of Pest in Class. We sincerely appreciate you spending your time with us and learning from industry leaders like Markus Konietzka. We are already gearing up to bring you another season filled with top insights and innovations the pest industry has to offer. Look out for a new episode of Pest in Class in just a few weeks. See you then.